According to the Japanese Ministry of Justice, the number of foreign residents in Japan has steadily increased in the post-Second World War period, and the number of foreign residents was more than 2.23 million at the end of 2015. With an estimated population of 127.11 million in 2015. The resident foreign population in Japan amounts to approximately 1.75% of the total population. Due to geographic remoteness and periods of self-imposed isolation, the immigration, cultural assimilation and integration of foreign nationals into mainstream Japanese society has been comparatively limited. Historian Yukiko Koshiro has identified 3 historically significant waves of immigration prior to 1945, the 8th century settlement of Korean artists and intellectuals, the asylum offered to a small number of Chinese families in the 1600s, and the forced immigration of up to 670,000 Korean and Chinese laborers during the Second World War. After 1945, unlike the Gastarbeiter immigration encouraged in advanced industrial economies such as Germany, Japan was for the greater part able to rely on internal pools of rural labor to satisfy the manpower needs of the industry. The demands of small business owners and demographic shifts in the late 1980s, however, gave rise for a limited period to a wave of tacitly accepted illegal immigration from countries as diverse as the Philippines and Iran. Production offshoring in the 1980s also enabled Japanese firms in some labor-intensive industries, such as electronic goods manufacture and vehicle assembly, to reduce their dependence on imported labor. In 1990, new government legislation provided South Americans of Japanese ancestry such as Japanese, Brazilians and Japanese Peruvians with preferential working visa immigration status. By 1998, there were 222,217 Brazilian nationals registered as residents in Japan, with additional smaller groups from Peru. In 2009, with economic conditions less favorable, this trend was reversed as the Japanese government introduced a new program that would incentivize Brazilian and Peruvian immigrants to return home with a stipend of $3,000 for airfare and $2,000 for each dependent. As of the second half of 2015, with an increasingly elderly Japanese population and lack of manpower in key sectors such as construction, IT services and healthcare, Japanese politicians are again debating the need to expand temporary foreign labor pools. Through the use of short-term trainee programs, resident foreign nationals in Japan that are counted in immigration statistics of permanent residents and mid-long-term residents include individuals and their registered dependents with, from 2013 published government reports, the proportion of foreign residents granted permanent resident status in Japan exceeded 30%. Although, if foreign residents granted permanent resident status, spouses of Japanese nationals, fixed domicile residents and ethnic Koreans with residence in Japan are included, the number of resident foreigners granted permanent residence effectively exceeds 60%. Japan receives a low number of immigrants compared to other G7 countries. This is consistent with Gallup data, which shows that Japan is an exceptionally unpopular migrant destination to potential migrants, with the number of potential migrants wishing to migrate to Japan 12 times less than those who wished to migrate to the US and 3 times less than those who wished to migrate to Canada, which roughly corresponds to the actual relative differences in migrant inflows between the 3 countries. Some Japanese scholars have pointed out that Japanese immigration laws, at least toward high-skilled migrants, are relatively lenient compared to other developed countries, and that the main factor behind its low migrant inflows is because it is a highly unattractive migrant destination compared to other developed countries. This is also apparent when looking at Japan's work visa program for specified skilled worker, which had less than 3,000 applicants, despite an annual goal of attracting 40,000 overseas workers. The published statistics on foreign nationals resident in Japan includes Zanichi Koreans with Tokubetsu Eijusha special permanent resident status, of whom there were 354,503. Foreign nationals already long-term residents in Japan under another visa category such as a working visa or as the spouse of a Japanese national are eligible to apply for permanent residence status. The granting of permanent residence status is at the discretion of the Immigration Bureau and dependent on satisfaction of a number of detailed criteria such as length of stay, ability to make an independent living, record of tax payments and documented contributions to Japan in terms of public service or professional activities. According to the Migrant Integration Policy Index, permanent residency laws were less stringent than those in the United States and the United Kingdom. International marriage migration used to represent as mu.